I was already sprinting when the thing stepped out of the fog. Not from the pier. From the water beneath it. It climbed up between the boards like the dock had ribs. And the ocean was breathing it out. 40 minutes earlier, I was closing my uncle's bait shop at the edge of town. The streets were slick with mist, lamps humming like tired insects, everything smelling like rust and salt. We call that slice of shoreline the Fingers. 5 old piers reaching into black water. Pier 6 used to be a 6th finger, but it rotted halfway and collapsed. Most of it is missing, but the beginning is still there, like a jaw with broken teeth. I was counting the register when I heard it. 3 knocks on the back door. The alley is chained at night. No one uses that door. The knocks came again. Slower, wet. I cracked the door. Empty alley. Only a trail of bare footprints. Shiny with water, leading straight for the piers. Each heel print was smeared, like whoever made them had no weight. I should have called the cops. I should have called anyone. Instead, I followed, because sometimes your body moves before your mind can argue. The closer I got to the water, the colder the fog felt. It tasted metallic, like breathing through a coin. A single lamp burned at the start of Pier 6, painting a crooked ladder of light across wet boards. Halfway down stood a silhouette, still as a nailed shadow. "Hey," I called, voice small against the water. No answer. Only the slow slam of waves under the planks. I stepped forward, and the wood gave a soft, spongy sound, like stepping on a soaked mattress. Something flexed under the pier. The boards rose a fraction, then settled, as if the ocean had hands. The silhouette tilted its head. Not turned, tilted until its ear nearly kissed its shoulder. A long breath came from the dark. It sounded like someone inhaling through teeth packed with seaweed. "Look," I said, palms out, "if you need help." The lamp above me hissed and went out. The fog swallowed the pier. For a heartbeat, I heard the click of joints, like crab legs on wood. I turned to retreat. Something icy wrapped my ankle, not a hand. A loop. Slick as eel skin. It tightened. I went down hard, chin bouncing off the planks. Let go. The shape moved closer, dragging a ribbon of water. It stepped into the dead lamp's afterglow and showed me its face. Skin the color of drowned paper. Lips peeled back too far. Teeth like broken shells. Its eyes were black and full, as if someone had filled the sockets with wet stones. "Where did you come from?" I asked. It opened its mouth and seawater spilled out. Then it spoke in a voice I knew. My uncle's. "Close up the shop, kid." The words came wrong. Vowels stretched. Consonants slippery. "Don't stay late." My hands shook. "Uncle Tom?" He drowned off these piers 6 years ago when a storm hit fast. The loop on my ankle pulled once, testing, then went slack. The thing leaned in. I smelled rot and cold iron. "Come back," it said in his voice. "Close up." That's when I realized the footprints I'd followed weren't headed out. They were headed in. From the broken mouth of Pier 6, toward land. Something had come ashore. I slid my pocket knife open with my thumbnail. I jabbed it into the loop around my ankle. The blade skated off something fibrous, tough as wet rope. I saw it anyway. The thing hissed, the sound bursting into 1,000 tiny clicks, like crabs scattered across stone. The loop loosened. I tore my leg free and crawled backward. It lunged. The boards bowed. For a second, I saw the water between the planks bulge up, pushing at the wood like a chest taking a breath. I ran. Behind me came a rhythm of soft, wet slaps. It didn't sprint. It kept pace. Patient. Counting. At the start of the pier, the lamp flickered back to life. In that stuttering light, I saw the thing stop, cower a little, like the glow was too bright. I yanked the bulb's wire down and cracked the glass with my fist. Sparks spat. The filament glared white-hot for a breath and then died. But in the seconds it flared, I saw the boards beneath the creature. They weren't wet from its feet. They were leaking. Water was squeezing up through the nail holes around it. I remembered something Uncle Tom swore by. Salt in the doorway. Salt on the sill. Some things won't cross a line they can't drink, he'd say. Half joke, half prayer. There was a bucket of rock salt by the bait shop. I sprinted for it, dumped a thick line across the start of Pier 6, and stepped back. The thing approached, stopped at the salt. It bent that wrong head again, watching the line of snake study's glass. Then it smiled. The smile never touched its eyes. It lifted one foot, pressed it to the salt, and the crystals hissed like fat on a griddle. It pulled back, waited. From the alley behind me came 3 wet knocks on the shop's back door. Then my uncle's voice, clearer this time. "Open up, kid." I didn't move. The thing tilted its head toward the door, then back to me. "Open," it said, teeth clinking. It was learning. I took the rest of the salt and widened the line into a sloppy circle around me. The thing paced the pier's edge, the water beneath it swelling and settling, as if the harbor shared its breath. It kept smiling, kept waiting. Eventually, the wet knocks stopped. The thing leaned forward, inhaled, inhaled, and whispered through my uncle's voice, "Tomorrow." Then it stepped backward into the fog and sank between the boards like a hand dropping through silk. I stayed in that salt circle until the horizon went from iron to lead to pale ash. Dawn made the harbor look harmless, but the boards at the end of Pier 6 still wept. and every morning since. I find 3 wet knocks on the back door. There's no doorbell. Only the salt line. And the sound of something patient counting waves. He waved me through the fog like he owned the street. 2 fingers. A small, easy gesture that said, "Come this way." And I did. Because at 1:17 a.m., when the siren started up by the lighthouse and every town dog began to howl, a man who looks like he knows where he's going feels like the safest bet. The fog that night was seawall thick. Headlights turned into dull coins. Storefronts floated like cutouts. I was walking home from the cannery. Overtime again. Boots sore and clothes sour with brine. The town's main drag runs parallel to the water. A row of lamps with tilting halos, then the boardwalk. Then the black. When the siren started, I stopped under a lamp that hummed like a bad dream. We only test the siren on Thursdays at noon. It was Monday. After midnight. The sound rose and fell, too slow to be a storm warning, too tired to be a fire. That was when he appeared. Tall, long coat, hat pulled low enough to erase his forehead. He didn't materialize so much as arrive, like a shape stepping out from behind glass. 2 fingers. "Come on. Do you know what that is?" I asked, nodding toward the siren. He tilted his head, as if listening to a second sound under the first. "Practice," he said. His voice was smooth and wrong at the same time, like a song you loved played at the wrong speed. We walked. The street narrowed to a ribbon between buildings that leaned inward to whisper. The fog tasted of pennies and rain. He didn't make footstep sounds. Or if he did, the fog ate them. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Short way," he said. "To the pier?" "To the end," he said. I laughed once, thin and empty. "Look, man, I'm just trying to get home. Home is after the end," he said. We turned down Kingfisher Alley, where the lamps always flicker and the posters on the telephone poles peel in the same curl. I noticed every poster had been torn in the same place, through the eyes of the faces printed there. The siren dropped an octave. From the harbor came one long foghorn that sounded like a door dragged over a stone floor. "Do you live here?" I asked him. He didn't answer. He stopped and pointed to a rectangle of darkness between 2 shuttered shops. A service corridor. Narrow enough to scrape your shoulders if you breathed in. "Through," he said. I peered in. No light. No light. No sound. No smell except wet cardboard and rope. Why? "Because the fog can't touch the middle," he said. He stepped into the dark and vanished like a coin into a mouth. I followed 2 steps and stopped. The darkness was an absence. It was full, packed like velvet. Behind me, the siren climbed again, and the fog in the street thickened into a moving wall, pushing at my back like a crowd. "Hey," I called into the corridor. Where are you? Here. His voice said from the left. Here, it said from the right. Here, it said from ahead. All three voices were him. All three were wrong by a fraction. I put my hand on the wall and inched forward. My fingers slid over damp brick and staples. I took another step, and my boot touched something soft. Not cloth, not trash. A hand, cold as the inside of a fish. I jerked back. The corridor breathed. I felt it. A long inhale that tugged at my coat, then a slow exhale that smelled like old nets. Turn around, the voice said from behind me. I didn't. Turn around, it said from in front. Let me see your face. I ran. My shoulder hit brick. My elbow skimmed staples. I burst back into the street where the fog moved with purpose. Shapes formed in it. Not people, but the impressions of people, like someone pressing bodies into wet plaster and pulling them away. I aimed for the boardwalk. The harbor throbbed with that slow horn. The siren fell silent. Everything held its breath. At Pier 6, a figure stood at the edge. Same coat, same hat. But the fog behind him pulled forward in a low arch, like a wave about to break. I stopped 10 feet short. Who are you? He tilted his head the way people do when they're choosing a face. Then he lifted his hat. There was no forehead to reveal, no eyes, just smooth skin, pale as day-old milk, with 5 faint, damp fingerprints pressed into it like someone had palmed his face and left a mark. He put the hat back and pointed at the water. Home, he said. Home is after the end. I'm not going with you. He nodded, accepting. Then he raised 2 fingers again. Beckoned once, and the fog around my legs tightened like a rope. I staggered forward 2 involuntary steps. The boards underfoot were slick as tongues. Stop, I said. The fog squeezed. Something cold touched my cheek, searching for eye sockets that weren't there. I dug into my coat pocket and found the little paper envelope Mrs. Rourke from the cannery had given me a week ago. Salt for luck, she'd said, pushing it into my hand when the fog first came heavy. I tore it open with my teeth and threw the salt in a crooked arc at my feet. The fog recoiled like a startled animal. The figure stepped, met the shining line, and stopped. I poured the rest in a ragged loop around me. He watched. He didn't blink. I realized blinking is a luxury of eyes. Practice, he said again, tasting the word. What are you practicing? Being you, he said. The siren started up again. Only this time I could hear the space between the notes. And inside that space were footsteps. And inside the footsteps was the sound of waves climbed into lungs. He circled the salt the way a shark circles a dropped anchor. He leaned close enough that I could smell wet wool and old rope. I'll wait, he said. Everyone steps over a line eventually. Dawn bled up behind the cannery. The fog thinned into ordinary weather. The figure palmed his blank face once more, like pressing a mask into place, and walked backward into the harbor until he was only a dent on the surface. I went home by the longest possible route, then taped lines of salt across every threshold and sill. Now, some nights, the fog taps the windows with 2 fingers, as if to say, "Short way?" As if to ask, "Are you ready to practice?"